Despite it not being my most successful video by any metric, I still consider my Demi-chan adaptation video to be one of, if not my best to date. On top of it being about a series I just adore, it's also one that left me immensely satisfied. I put a lot of work into it and ultimately don't know what I could have done to improve it beyond the version you guys saw. What I'm getting at is I want to do more videos in that style, because there's certainly an art to adaptation, and it's one I'm interested in taking a closer look at. So, without further explanation, here's the inaugural episode of... Now, at first glance, you may be wondering why this initial installment has 3 shows that are all very different from one another. What with one being a daring adventure into a murder hole, another being a post-apocalyptic novella fused with an intro to philosophy course, and the third being comfier than a sleeping bag stuffed with marshmallows and puppies. And you're right, even just glancing at their respective mangas, you'd be hard-pressed to find many points of comparison. Some panels in Made in Abyss look straight out of a storybook, whereas mangaka Tsukumizu has an art style that is truly all her own, with Girls Last Tour and its rough yet defined sketchbook feel. And even Yuru Camp is not without its occasional striking panel despite being the most simple of the 3. All that said, when it comes to their adaptations, each by a different studio mind you, there seemed to be a distinct focus put on the backgrounds and settings of each of these. And so that's the linking factor I'm going to focus on for this video. Each series uses these aspects to a different end, and in that process they transform their respective source material into something more than just a beat-for-beat adaptation, making it so that either has merit. So, let's delve into them. We'll start with the ones whose art styles I've already discussed somewhat in previous videos, those being Made in Abyss and Girls Last Tour, where the soft, rounded designs of their characters are directly contrasted by their environments. Not that this isn't necessarily also the case with Yuru Camp, but it's certainly less pronounced. Funny, when it's probably the fluffiest of the 3. But as I've already said, in Made in Abyss this contrast serves to convey the idea that this is a story where the innocence of childhood is no shield to the dangers of the real world. A lack of experience spelunking will get you killed in theirs as much as it would in ours. The details and depth of the background likewise reinforcing that the Abyss is ancient and complex, whereas our characters are young and simple. And I'm not even talking explicitly about the art style here, though that contrast is constantly hitting your subconscious. But from as early as the first minutes of the series, we see relics being collected by Riko and her discovering the corpse of someone in prayer. It creates a natural draw between the two, with young minds being lured in out of a curiosity of the unknown. And this symbolism is as evident in the manga as it is in the anime, with both versions boasting exceptionally detailed background art. Studio Kinema Citrus, though, did their best to make the anime stand out by using the medium to make the Abyss feel alive in a sense. Before we see either Riko or Nat at the very beginning of that same episode, we see dragonflies, fungi, and even small bugs when the grass gets disturbed by their rope. I especially thought that was a really nice touch that shows how there's more to the Abyss than meets the eye. Likewise, the atmosphere of the backgrounds in tandem with the colors, music, and monsters moving about take that life and blend in an eerie sense of malice to sell you on the titular environment, in a way that no page ever can really replicate. Depth can only be conveyed so well with black and white shades confined to a static page, and as detailed as the monsters in the manga may be, animation still has an advantage when convincing you that what you're looking at is actually alive. And obviously a manga also lacks music. But the anime doesn't waste a shot or note to sell you on this sense of awe and mystery that also envelops the Abyss. And this only becomes more evident the deeper our protagonists descend, with each layer being given a distinct look and feel accentuated by their own color palette. Again, something an animated medium is usually better suited to convey. The manga is truly beautiful at times, but I think the anime did a fine job matching where it could when giving the Abyss, Town of Orth, and the cast life. But what about when there isn't life, and your story isn't even set in something that could be considered natural? Well, that brings us to our second series, Girls Last Tour. It's probably my favorite of these 3 series, but personal preference aside, I think it's an intriguing adaptation. Whereas Made in Abyss's backgrounds are largely comparable between the manga and anime, the same can't quite be said for Girls Last Tour. Don't get me wrong, Studio White Fox did a stellar job recreating a lot of the panels faithfully, but the sketchy charm of the manga is something that is best enjoyed and understood within a black and white environment. Though if you want to get a taste of what a series animated in that style might look like, then turn your attention to the series ED, which was, fun fact, actually animated by the mangaka herself. You can see this design is clearly very unifying, meaning Chi and Yu are sometimes drawn as scratchy as the backgrounds are, so they feel much more like they're a part of this post-apocalyptic world they're traversing. Conversely though, as I've said, this doesn't really hold for the anime, with Chi and Yu's character designs easily being the most fluid of these three series, constantly squishing and deforming while their environments remain largely static. But the adaptation manages to make this contrast less jarring than it otherwise would be by having the personalities of both Chi and Yu more in line with their bleak world. It's not that they're overly depressed or downtrodden per se, but their voices are certainly more subdued than their designs might suggest they'd be. And that helps them feel like at least a part of them was shaped by their upbringing in this environment. Had Chi's voice been more akin to Inori Minase's role of Kimari in A Place Further Than the Universe, the contrast might have been too great. I'll let you decide for yourself.
ほとんど燃えちゃったけどね。今も持ってるのは数冊の日記を除けば。言うつもりだったんだよ。ただタイミングの問題というか、はっきりしてからというか。
誰が書いたの?
But on the note of environments, while it may not be as distinct as the style of the manga, wow is some of the artwork in the anime stunning. The post-apocalypse is painted in so many different colors that at times it's legitimately beautiful and you forget how desolate it actually is. But pretty and striking artwork is only half the story. The other half is how the anime uses some of these shots to subtly reinforce themes central to the series. Constantly through composition, we are reminded of how alone Chi and Yu truly are in this world. So many establishing shots are ones where our titular girls are flanked by the barren cityscape, but I specifically want to mention episode 3. These shots here in tandem especially help sell a real sense of scale. This one as well, where that large pillar is still in the background, and even the measurably smaller structure in the foreground still dwarfs our characters. But it's not like the manga didn't have panels like these. There really are just as many wide shots that put an emphasis on how small and insignificant the actions of Chi and Yu are in the grand scheme of things, which is a message pervasive throughout both versions, that those small experiences are a part of what gives life meaning. It doesn't always have to be about the goal that's off beyond a horizon you may never cross. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Can you tell I really love this show? Anyway, with the art style of the manga, the biggest drawback is the limit to the amount of detail the backgrounds have. And don't think that's me being critical of it, I love the way it looks, but it's an area that I personally think the anime improved on. From the panning shots to the colors to the palpable sense of scale the details helped give their world, it helps the messages of Girls Last Tour hit home more than they would have. But now we step out of fantasy and science fiction into a world far more resembling reality. A world without the curse of the abyss or constantly diminishing resources and bleak outlooks. A world of camping. Yuru Camp, despite being the simplest of the three in terms of both art style and plot, might be the one that does the most with its adaptation, at least in the backgrounds department. Because while the environment is still very much a significant part of the story, the manga art doesn't quite stress it as much as the other two. Rather, a lot of the big panels are relatively straightforward and don't have much detail to them, often featuring these crossing lines to convey shading. But like Girls Last Tour, I think there's a similar reason for this. A lot of these wide shots are often presented in tandem with Rin mentioning how alone she is while winter camping. So a lack of real detail helps give you that sense of solitude she craves. And so these are used a lot, especially in the early chapters. Studio C Station, though, opted to kick things up a notch for the anime, choosing instead to convey that same feeling by just spending more time with Rin as she rides to and sets up camp, just allowing you to take in the surroundings as much as she is. Likewise, they throw in a healthy amount of silence and ambient nature sounds. I'm guessing this decision for more detail was made because unlike Girls Last Tour and Made in Abyss, Yuru Camp is, as I stated, set in reality, specifically modern-day Japan, so the studio was able to take cues from real environments and campsites when designing some of this beautiful background art. It certainly helps to be able to take inspiration from multiple sources. As a result, we get a lot more diversity when it comes to environments, and just more shots altogether as other characters, not just Rin, explore the various campgrounds. And I think they succeeded in making nature as attractive as they could through replicating real life. By having the environments be that vibrant and detailed, the anime was only able to sell people on the idea of camping that much more. It also helped them sell a lot of Blu-rays. Heyo! Of course, that was also most likely helped by getting to see the cast comfortably enjoy this rustic setting. It made me want to give it a try, and as I've said before, I hate the outdoors. It's something where I don't think the same effect would have been possible if they had decided to stick to an art style more similar to the manga. It wouldn't have felt like these girls were actually going out and camping in contemporary Japan. So I'm personally glad they opted to tie it more to reality and tried to capture some of nature's majesty in the process. It's definitely the one out of the three where, for me at least, my preference for the anime is a good deal higher than for the manga. But for each series, their respective animes succeeded in using the backgrounds and environments to build upon themes present in the original material. Made in Abyss's dread and sense of adventure, Girls' Last Tour's optimistic nihilism, and Yuru Camp's rustic comfiness. In my eyes, they all succeed both as stories and adaptations. But those are just my thoughts, and as always, I'm interested to hear yours. What do you think of any of these series? And are there ones you think would be a good fit for this style of video? Whatever your thoughts are, you can let me know down below. Thank you as always for watching, and an especially big thanks goes out to my awesome patrons, PenguinPandaZero, OverjoyedSoup, MVPino, James Morton, Mr. Idealist, Marbled Ranger, Julian Reyes, Spudge, and everyone else whose support helps make videos like these possible. If you would like to join those awesome people, click the right to visit my Patreon page, you can click the left to subscribe, in the middle for more of my content, t-shirts are also on sale in the link below, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. On YouTube, we always have to adapt, so be sure to click that bell icon to get notifications for when my videos go up. Stay awesome, and I'll see you next time.